Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over new Gems of War Mythic of the Mandragora. It has been added to the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests for this week only, and then it'll be in the drop table with everything else. In the future, you'll be able to get it for 4,000 diamonds from the Soul Forge when it rotates around, or you can end up throwing down event keys to end up getting it in the event key drop table when Zolkiri event rolls back around. But the easiest way to get in the future would be to do it with diamonds, and the absolute easiest way would be to get it this week before it's not the only mythic and drop table. Aside from that, we also got a new class as of today for the new kingdom, of course. We'll be going over that in a separate video. This one's going to be focused on the new mythic. We're going to be going over 3 teams, getting some first impressions, getting a key opening going for it, and see what we can do. So let's start cracking into keys. So, of course, as we mentioned, Glory Gem, Guild, and VIP chests are the ones that it is in. So the ones that it is not in are gold keys, event keys, and shiny keys. Obviously, shiny keys don't even drop troops. Event keys technically doesn't even have a mythic in it because it's only the midnight drop table right now. And gold keys, of course, also don't have a mythic in it because they only drop commons and rares. So let's go and see if we can get it. I'm going to do some 200s. Normally I want to do these 50 at a time just to make sure you don't waste any. But honestly, our pile's big enough that I think we can kind of just rush through, especially if we're going to get this unlucky. Though we're not at odds yet. We're at, what, 800? This should give you about 1 every 1,000. So right here, boom, Mythic, go. Right, Mythic? Oh, no Mythic we're going to go over. I did make sure it's updated, so we should be able to get the drop. Otherwise, we'll burn through every single key right now. Have seen people getting it. We did make sure to restart our game. We're at 1,600 now. Oh, no. But that's why we have so many keys. What was that, 1,600, 1,800, 2,000? Double over drop rate? Oh, no. This is why we click 200 at a time, because we'll still be here forever. 2,400. Hello, drop table? Please? I know you're in there. There you are. So, what is this mythic? This mythic is basically Wild Queen. No, not Wild Queen. Yasmin's Chosen. This mythic is basically Yasmin Chosen, but actually good. It is very, very similar to it in every possible way. It does a bunch of scatter damage boosted by webbed enemies, and then creates 10 purple gems. The 10 purple gems are static, so the enemy being webbed does not increase the amount of gems that you create, but rather the amount of damage that you do. Its amount of damage is a bit underwhelming, however, the main benefit that this is actually going to be used for is, oddly enough, its traits. It has some really good traits, particularly compared to something like Yasmin's Chosen. It has some natural score reduction, which is not too bad, not particularly high, but better than having nothing. Purple Link, which is really interesting. Yasmin's Chosen didn't have this. It does. Yasmin's Chosen does not have Green Link, but this does have Purple, so this will make it a little bit easier for it to get its mana, or for other things that create Purple on your team to also be able to feed it mana. And its most noteworthy thing by far is its final trait. It webs a random enemy whenever you match Purple Gems. So, of course, Yasmin's Chosen, one big issue with her is she was a mass Entangler, but there are so many ways to do Entangle, as well as so many ways better than her to do Entangle, that she's never really used for Entangle, whereas there are not nearly as many ways to do Web, and this actually makes it one of the most viable ways to apply Web in the current state of the game. So this thing actually will get some usage, especially if you just don't have any way to do Web. Probably the best way overall right now would be Arachnine Weaver, being able to go for the double true damage poke, getting a bunch of explodes, getting a 4 times Web onto the enemy team, though assuming it gets a double kill or a single kill, a little bit less than 4 times, but you know, you'll still be webbing the entire enemy team when you cast it. And it has a really good resummon, so generally that troop is used as one of the more primary webbers within the game, but this could be a great alternative if you want to go just all-in loop, as of course one big downside of going Weaver is, while it does have extra turn potential, it doesn't have the highest of extra turn chance, and while this thing also isn't the highest of things with only a 10 gem creation, just simply having it on your team and having everything else on your team loop will be able to go get you the amount of purples you need. It also counts as elemental and fey, and while there isn't too much fey synergy at the moment for it, there is definitely a ton of elemental synergy, particularly with 50% mana star and everything else, so has a lot of potential. But yeah, there's the mythic. Let's go and upgrade this thing and go plop it into the teams. And let's go to upgradable here. Get that thing, and we can actually see it right here when we use our placeholder here. So Yasmin's Chosen, you can see this thing's like basically a 1-to-1 of this, just with worse traits. It does a bunch of scatter damage to the exact same degree as this thing does. Well, it would if this thing was upgraded. This thing does boosted by Entangled at 10 times. This is boosted by Web at 10 times. Unfortunately, it is a little bit harder to get Web on the enemy team, not counting this trait. So unlike Yasmin, that can occasionally get some like passive entangles through like, you know, elementalists or something else in your team, this thing is pretty much going to be your primary and probably only Weber in most teams that it's used in. So you do have to wait until you actually get all those purple matches. And yeah, they're basically 1-to-1 in every way. 10 green compared to 10 purple. The only real difference is her traits are substantially worse, and eventually having the Entangle at the end, whereas it says substantially better traits, and eventually the Web at the end based on purple, and obviously this one does it based on green. But, of course, we shall be replacing every single one of these, as Yasmin's Chosen is pretty bad in the current state of the game, whereas this new Mythic's honestly not too bad. It's definitely a utility troop that you would only bring out on occasion, those occasions being when you really want to use Web mechanic. There are some teams that can be really heavily destroyed with Web. Basically what Web does, if you don't already know, it makes it for the duration of the web that the enemy has 0 magic. They can't gain or lose magic during magic stat during the duration of web. This is most notably for, of course, they can't end up gaining it. So if they have like a magic gaining team that constantly keeps gaining more and more magic, you can simply just go full counter. Also, I just realized I just clicked to do the orange thingy. I should have actually done double orb there, but oh well. Anyways. But yeah, Web, it basically makes it so their magic is 0. That doesn't mean they can't cast their ability, but whatever is boost ratioed from their ability doesn't get to do anything. So for example, if this thing got webbed, it would only have 20 scatter damage, its boost ratio, and the 10 gem creation, basically losing it out on 49 of its potential damage. Sorry, it would have 10 base damage, but it would lose out on 49 of its potential damage there, which isn't that much. But compared to something else that loses a ton more, why do I not have a single good example? How about Emithralix? Like this thing loses 39 of its magic and loses more than half of its AoE damage. So in those kind of situations, you can end up losing quite a bit of value, where some lose less than others, and some lose literally none if you're just like a skull spammer or something similar, or have an ability that's very static like this. This gains absolutely no downside from being webbed, other than anything that does extra damage to it based on web. But anyways, are we good now? All in, all traded, all leveled? Oh yeah, did we do the level? I always forget to do that. Yeah, we did do the level. Should have doubled orbed it though. You can save a lot of value if you throw the orange orb and the green orb on it. Anyways, let's start getting into the teams. We'll just mess around with it in, I don't know, PvP? Should we go PvP? But then again, the problem with doing it PvP now though, I guess we'll just do it in here. The problem with doing it in PvP is we have to copy paste the team every single time now, because you don't actually get to choose it from your list. But anyways, let's start from the top. Oh, yeah, never mind. Wild Queen is intended there. I thought I forgot to replace one out there. But nope, that is intended. So, first team that we're going here, we're doing 4 times Elemental. So, right off the bat, obviously this is a very heavy wand-based team. You just go straight for the wand and just kind of go crazy from there. We do have access to Curse, though we don't have alignment for Curse, though we have Plan B. We have our other way to Curse. Well, we could do it off of Mirage Queen. We can also do it off a Hero. So the Curse just makes sure that we can go and web them all. And then we can start spamming them. Try to get our purples, try to get our extra turns. Unfortunately, the only big downside with it is similar to Yasmin, 10 gem creation. Not the greatest amount of gem creation. It's obviously not like a super pitiful amount, but there's a lot of times where 10 is not going to be enough. As you can see by already 2 misses now. You know what? Let's go for Umbral Stars. Let's give it a little bit of a higher chance here. Though we didn't even get enough mana back to end up going into it. So you know what? We actually will go for the higher mana accumulation star. See if we can get the purple in there. There we go. Finally, got an extra turn. As you can see, its damage is not the greatest. It's an issue that has been shared with the other troop that it has. Of course, it's one of the main reasons why you don't really use Yasmin's Chosen in the current state of the game. It's just not good for damage. But as you can see, it's really good for web. One of the main premises of what we're trying to do with any kind of team like this is not necessarily to do damage very quickly, but to disable out essentially everything they have. With something like Elementalist into Curse into this troop, you'll be able to apply, let's see, what's the total there? We're going to be able to stun, freeze, burn, entangle, curse, and web. That is a lot of things they cannot do. They cannot gain extra turn. They cannot use their traits. You'll be able to curse through impervious as well with curse. So they won't be able to do that even if they have impervious. They'll be entangled, so they can't do skull damage. They'll be webbed, so they can't do spell damage, other than their base amount. But whatever they have based on magic won't be able to do anything. So you can end up taking out a lot of things. So while it's not necessarily the quickest of wins, it's going to be some pretty safe wins that you can end up doing. And that's where the utility part of this thing really comes in. You're mostly going to be using it when you just want basically a passive webber on your team. Instead of having to cast Weaver or something else, you simply just want this purely for its capability of making sure that the enemy doesn't do anything. Because combining Entangle with Web makes them very incapable of doing much. Obviously, they can still do quite a bit. Silence plus Entangle might be a little bit better, but there aren't really a mass silencer in the current state of the game, so the next best thing is simply just mass webbing. So, we do not have purple on the team that desperately needs purple. This is a 4 times purple team going all in. We did go Wand again, just because Wand is so absurdly good. And kind of doing the same stars before, kind of getting the purple thing rolling. Getting as many purples as we can to get all those webs. As you can see, we have something else to support our purples this time around. We have ourselves the I cannot say this word this morning. Amethyst. The gem dragon of purple. But this thing ends up giving 2 purple to, or 2 magic to all purple allies when you match purple gems. And not only are we already going to be wanting to take a lot of purple gems because we need it for our webs, but we're also going to be getting it from all of our loops, and then we just simply go straight into our AoEs, just kind of spam this a little bit, and we just keep stacking magic, and we're basically just doing this until we get a really nice damage range. Make sure there's no extra turn right here, so we'll just let it throw one of those down, get our extra turn off of Amethyst, works out even better. Go for like one more of these, that should be enough to kill out with Amethyst, don't even need it because the split damage actually took it out, and you kind of just do that, just keep going back and forth, use your initial mana accumulation, and you're good to go. And now we have ourselves the low-rarity team, which we end up going to Fiendfire, oddly enough, mostly because we needed an easy way to curse, and this is the easy way to curse. Also says burn if you want to go down that way with your hero class, so I did go down the mech route. This is mostly just so we have Dispel, in case they do have immune to curse or something else, so we could just still Dispel off, like, Submerge and stuff like that. I was using Hell Crackle here. He's mostly for the extra turn poke, however, he does have 5 times damage against bosses, which is why I figured we put him in here. He's a low-rarity thing that we can kind of just plop in there, so figured why not. So if the enemy has like a Zolgoth or something similar, you could very easily take it out with 5 times damage against it. So you have a way to do that. You have your other damager of the Mandragora, Bork for mana accumulation, Fiendfire for chip damage, and to apply the initial curse. That's pretty much the game plan here. With Mech, of course, we aren't going to have all the benefits of Elementals, which means we're also not as tanky, oddly enough. We're initially just as tanky, but as the battle goes on, we're going to be less tanky due to not having all the Entangle, not being able to bury out Brown, stuff like that, but should still work out pretty well. So right off the bat, we kind of wanted to get them all cursed in case they did have immune to web. In this case, of course, they don't have immune to web, but that's perfectly fine. This guy has free extra turn poke, so we can just throw it at whatever the biggest threat is and just throw that down every time. Keep throwing down this, and hopefully we land a ton of extra turns so we can keep getting that up. This weapon we can cast if we choose, otherwise we could just simply let this thing keep getting more mana back into itself, which is actually the route we're going to go here since we're mostly trying to show the Mythic, not Fiendfire. The Fiendfire is mostly just there for the initial curse, so we are going to be using it for some amount of chip damage here and there. But yeah, we just keep throwing this down when it has its ability, keep getting chips in, keep going back for Bork so you can get your mana back if it doesn't automatically get all of its mana back. A lot of skulls here. Unfortunately, this team does not carry any amount of skull utility on it, unlike some of the other teams that we had earlier. So we'll throw that down, get her a little bit of purple. We also don't have any scaling for purple on this team compared to the other one, which isn't the like a must-have thing, but definitely is very helpful for kind of getting the damage up a little bit. So hopefully this will kill the first 2 slots, that we could wipe out everything else. Oh, you actually should have cast that, but it doesn't really matter here. And is that kill range? No, not quite. But we could do that. Kill out the other one. Then we just have to poke him once, probably with a skull, ideally. And yep, nope, yep, nope, yeah, okay, eventually. At some point, some amount of damage will be done in one direction. There we go. And that ends up killing it out. And that's a low-rarity team. Has some decent damage against bosses. Obviously has the mass web thing. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of why you'd bring this out. It's a utility trip that you'd plop into pretty much any team when you want web. There's honestly endless possibilities that you can end up putting it in, really depending on if you want to plop a web mechanic in it. There's not too many instances where you wouldn't necessarily want to use web in the current state of game. Web is more so a mechanic that makes you win more consistently, not makes you win quicker. There isn't really like a proper like boost ratio web team in the current state of the game. At least not to like a 4 times kind of team. Maybe as we get more Zolcaria options that could change, because as we mentioned earlier, this thing is from Zolcaria. So if nothing else, at least the web synergy in Zolcaria is a lot stronger now compared to what it was. However, it's still missing a few key components to really put it together. Obviously, I guess Web Spinner you kind of consider as like a good web synergy thing, but it already applies its own web in a sense immediately. And if it's stunned on that web, it's stunned on its triple damage. So it kind of already supplies the web that it needs, even though it's one of the better web synergy things in the game. But it kind of already, you know, does its web on its own. You don't really need extra webbing to end up making it work. But this is mostly just to make sure if you don't want to go like a pure silence team, but you still want to play a little bit safer, just throwing a bunch of webs on the enemy team while having like elementals on your team. Really great strategy just to make sure that the enemy can't really do as much to you. They still can do some things. And you do want to be wary of abilities that basically completely bypass web. Like, for example, something like, I don't know, why do I feel like I never have a good example when I want to go show this thing? But of course, like webbing a Bork or webbing a Thrall are like some really good targets to end up going for. If you web these things, they destroy almost nothing. A lot of mana accumulation weapons are like that too. You throw a web on them, they explode like 1 gem. Or in the case of this thing destroys 1 gem if it's webbed. So things like these are some of the better things to end up throwing down web on. Whereas something like Wand, for example, you would never want to try webbing Wand, as it does absolutely nothing to it. Whereas something like Thrall, Bork, stuff like that, Marilith, Bug Strider, those kind of things, those get completely crippled if they become webbed and can't really do any amount of mana accumulation at all. So it really comes down to a case-by-case basis based on what you're facing. It's definitely going to be more of a guild war and PvP option that you would plop in to make sure you don't lose, as well as similar game modes that might be on the harder end, rather than something that you would put into your team for speed, as you're not really getting speed out of this thing, mostly just surviving utility. But anyways, that's the Mythic. It's not horrible. Utility troop that you would definitely bring out occasionally. Definitely above average. Definitely a lot better than its Yasmin's counterpart. And I would highly advise getting it. You have until the end of Thursday, basically Friday reset time, 1 week from today, to end up getting this thing in the Glory Gem Guild VIP chest drop table. Best of luck. Hopefully you'll get way luckier than us, as we went like 2.5 times over drop rate. Or I guess technically 1.5 times over. You know, we took about, what, 2,600 keys? Should take on average like 1,000, give or take a little bit on either guild keys or gem keys, assuming you have the guild keys max. And of course, I don't always mention this every single one of these videos, but do make sure if you are opening seal keys that you do have your seals maxed. The way to check this is go to, well, make sure you're on the right tab. Make sure you click on guild, click over to guild again, click over to seals, and make sure that this number says 40,000. If so, you will get the best drop rate for them, and they are essentially like gem keys at that point. Except they actually have a little bit of a higher drop rate for Mythics. If we go check something like gem keys, for example, we can see that the Mythic chance is 0.1. However, a maxed out guild chest is a 0.11. So basically the drop rate of a gem key and a glory key simultaneously. Not that much better, but it is slightly better. But you only get that if you have the 40,000 seals across the guild for the week, so make sure to do that. And if you need to get some in a pinch, you can throw down purple orbs on it if your guild is still short on such. You can end up throwing down purple orbs by going to seals, using orb, and throwing down these things with however many you have in order to reach the threshold that you need across the guild. And of course, you don't have to do all of it yourself. You can do it across your entire guild, as the number is cumulative across the entire guild, not just your own total. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you guys still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. All the teams that we just mentioned are in the description if you want to go copy paste any of them. Definitely feel free to leave a like on the video. Helps a lot and is also greatly appreciated. And aside from that, we will be covering the new hero class pretty soon. Still need to go level it some and, you know, actually unlock it. I haven't unlocked it yet. However, yeah, new hero class today, the Night Weaver. It does seem like it's probably not going to be that viable, but we'll still cover it, see what we can do team-wise with it, and go from there. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.